Alright, so we have 3 groups spawned and a vehicle. We have a vehicle. Today I'm going to share a new script with you that will spawn and despawn custom units or vehicles that will patrol in zones that you define in your scenario. zoneSpawnPatrol script. So here I have a little mission set up. Let's go to the player location, and the player is set up where he is overlooking this town on the map of Altus. Let's go to the scenario tab at the top and then down to open scenario folder and install and set up the script. Here we are in the mission folder, and I have another scenario with the script in it. We're going to bring that up, and we're just going to copy the script and we're going to paste it into our mission folder. So I'm going to zip the script up into a zip file and link it for download in the description of the video. When you get it, put the script into your mission folder just like I did here. Let's open up the script and review it. Alright, so this is the SpawnPatrol.sqf script. Put this script together. The idea was by Peter Thorogood, Peter Creature aka Brick, and this is what the script does. Spawns custom single to multiple infantry groups and vehicles inside an area marker randomly when the player enters a trigger in a spawn zone. The script assigns each group a roaming patrol using this FNC task control centered on the marker with a radius you choose. Both infantry and vehicle groups are set a safe and a limited speed for the patrol behavior. When the player reaches the despawn zone trigger, it will despawn everything in the spawn zone. How to set up. So the first step is put the spawn patrol script into your mission folder, which we already did. Number 2 is in an init.sqf or an init server.sqf. Put the following code. We're going to copy this code. Press Ctrl C to copy it, and then start up a notepad document or a notepad++, whichever works. Press Ctrl V to paste the code. Then we're going to go to File and then down to where it says Save As. We're going to choose Save As Type and choose All Files. This way you see all the files in your mission folder. Now for the file name, click on there and make sure you see a cursor there, and then type in init.sqf. Make sure that's spelled correctly. And I'm already in the mission folder. Once you see the other files, the mission SQM and the script, then just hit save. That will save the script into your mission folder, and just check your mission folder and you should see a init.sqf script in your mission folder. Let's go to the next step, which is step 3, editor area markers. So for this, we need to place area markers in Eden using either an ellipse or a rectangle that will cover a town or area where you want infantry and vehicles to spawn. Give the marker a variable name and put the name into the marker name array for the trigger. Let's go back into the mission and set up an area marker. We're going to go to markers, F6. And here on the left you have icons, and then you have area markers. Choose area markers, and we could choose either an ellipse or a rectangle. We're going to choose an ellipse, and we're going to go to the town over here, or Reno, and we're going to place this marker in the middle. Then we're going to expand this marker so it covers most of the town. And we'll do something like that. Now just remember that when you enter the spawn zone, all the infantry and vehicles that you want to use are going to spawn within this marker. So remember that they're going to be patrolling within this marker. So if you have it too big and you don't want that, then you need to adjust the size. Alright, next we're going to edit the marker, and we're going to give the marker a variable name of town 1. And then we're going to go to color, and we're going to set the marker to red. Now you don't have to set the marker to red. Before we close this is marker style. So at the bottom here it says alpha or transparency. If you don't want the marker showing on the map, then all you need to do is set this down to 0 and just hit OK. And then when you click on the map, the marker is going to disappear. You're not going to lose the marker, so you can just go into your entities panel and just click this and it'll bring up the markers. So we're going to leave that as it is. We have our marker named Town 1 and it's covering an area that we want. And let's go back to the script and see the next step. Alright, so that was step 3, area markers. Let's go down to number 4, editor, spawn zone trigger. Set up an area trigger so when the player enters it, infantry and vehicles will spawn. The activation will be player faction side and set to present and then repeatable. Now, you don't have to set it to repeatable. You just want to clear the town and then that's it. Then just don't set it to repeatable, because if you set it to repeatable and keep entering that trigger, then the infantry and vehicles are going to keep respawning. So that's up to you. On the activation, you're going to put the following code. This is the code right here that you need to put inside the trigger. Before we set this up, let's go over what this code is. So below I have set up an example. This is the parameter descriptions for the above code. So this is the same code as above. And these are the descriptions for each one of these lines of code. So this first line is town 1. Now, if you have multiple towns, then you're going to change this code to town 2 or whatever you want to name it. So this is basically an ID. And each time you use this code, you want to change this ID. Our first town that we just created, we're going to leave it as town 1. And let's say if we did another town or city, then we would name that town 2 or whatever you want to name it. This here is an array for the marker name. So we named our marker town 1, the marker name, and use only area markers because the script is designed for area markers and not regular icon markers. So just be sure that you're using area markers. Here is the class names of the infantry that are going to spawn. So this is only 2 soldier types. I'm going to show you, after we get the trigger set up, how to acquire class names to add to this list. Then here is the vehicle class name pool. This is only 1 vehicle. If you don't want any vehicles, then as I said here, is put the 2 brackets. Just take this out and just leave the 2 brackets, and then that will just not have vehicles. Down here is the faction side. So if you want blue for patrolling, oak for patrolling, or guerrilla or independent, then you would put either or. This line here is 3. That means there are going to be number of groups to spawn. This is for infantry. So the number 3 infantry groups that will spawn. Here is the number of soldiers per group that will spawn. So for 3 groups, you're going to have 9 soldiers. Here is number 1. This is the number of vehicles to spawn. So this will only be 1 vehicle that will spawn. This 200 is the patrol radius from the center of the marker. 200 meters out is where the infantry and vehicles are going to spawn at. Here, I'm going to copy this. We have to adjust this here and set that up like that because I want to use independent. Alright, so we have town 1 as our variable. Town 1 is the marker name, and we're going to acquire some soldiers to put in here, but we'll do that after we set up the triggers. So let's save that a second. So we're going to set up the trigger, and then we're going to acquire the class names to update these class name pools. We're going to go to triggers, and we're going to choose a trigger that is 500, and we're going to set this up to cover the area. We're going to place that right there, and we're going to use the area widget and just kind of shrink it just a little bit. Remember, this is the trigger that will spawn everything, so you want it a little bit bigger than your marker. So we could actually reduce it a little bit more, but that's fine, just as it is. Alright, so let's edit the trigger, and in the text, now the text doesn't do anything, it just tells you what the trigger is. It doesn't have any function outside that, so it won't break nothing. So we're just going to type in spawn zone. You're going to see why, because we're going to need to add another trigger. Let's go down to trigger activation, and on the activation we're going to set it to blue for present. So when blue 4 is present, then the units and vehicle will spawn. Then we're going to set it to repeatable, and then in the on activation box we're going to have to put a code, which is going to be the code that we get from the script. Now before we do that, we're going to have to set up some class names for the type of units that we want to spawn. So let's just hit OK for now, and that's going to be our trigger. As you can see, if you hover your mouse cursor over it, it'll say spawn zone, and then it'll say spawn zone here, giving you an indication of which trigger it is, because as I said, you'll have two triggers. We're going to set up some infantry units that are going to spawn. So we're going to go to groups, and then we're going to go to independent because we chose independent for the code to spawn independent units. So we're going to go to FIA and then infantry, and we're going to set up a patrol team. Once you place the units that you want, you see them highlighted, you see them lit up in your entities panel. Then just right click one of them and then go down to where it says log, and then go to log classes to clipboard. Once you click that and the menu disappears, then you've logged them. Just hit delete on your keyboard to delete the units because they're going to spawn. And then we're going to go back to the script and add those class names to the script. Now what you're going to do here is after the quote, in between the quotes, you're just going to press Control V to paste the class names. What you pasted, it doesn't have to be a lot because you're spawning these guys as groups. So the more class names you have, the more variety of soldiers in that group are going to be. If you only paste one class name, then you only have however many soldiers that you decided here, which we have 4 soldiers in the group, are going to be, just that one soldier. So for this class name, what you need to do is you need to put a quote before and after each class name. So you got a class name, then you're going to put a comma. And for these guys here, we're going to put a quote, and then a quote before and after, just like that. The last one already has a quote. Then you're going to put your cursor before that quote, hit backspace, and that'll bring it up to there. After this, you put a comma. We'll just do that. And that's it. Now, just to check your array, is you want each class name. So your class name is here. Then you have quotes before and after, and then the next class name is here, which has quotes around it. Then between each class names, you have a comma. So comma here, your class name, comma here, and then the last class name with the quote does not get a comma. So just remember all that's in the brackets. Now, if you miss a comma like that, the mission may not load or you'll get an error. Alright, let's save that, and then let's go back into the mission and choose a class name for the vehicle that we're going to spawn. So now we're going to go to F1, and we're going to collapse this. We're going to go to FIA, and then we're going to go to Cars, and we're going to choose an off-road HMG, and we're going to place that right here. Alright, so this is basically what we're going to spawn as a vehicle, and this is what's going to patrol. So what you do while it's highlighted, you just right click it. You're doing the same exact thing as you did for the infantry. Just go down to log, and then log to class names to clipboard. Click that. Once the menu disappears, then delete truck, and your class names have been logged. So now let's go back to the script and add that class name. Now let's go to the next array, which is here. And since we only have one class name, this will be easy. So just in between the quotes, press Control V, and that will add the new class name for the vehicle that is going to spawn. So no commas needed, but if you have multiple types of vehicles that are going to spawn for variety, then just put a comma and then a quote, and let's say we use the same vehicle, and just press Control V again, add a quote, and then that's it. Then you'll have 2 vehicles. So for every new vehicle you have, add a comma and then put the new class name in quotes. But we're only going to have one vehicle that's going to spawn, and that's it for that. So we'll just save that. So what we're going to do now that we have all that set up, is we're going to copy this code right here from bracket to bracket, just like I have it. Press Control C, and we're going to go back into the mission and paste this into the trigger. Let's go to the map and let's locate our trigger. So this is our trigger here. We'll click on the trigger. You could also do it from the entities panel. We're going to edit the trigger, and in the on activation box right here, click on the box so that you get a cursor blinking and press Control V. That's going to paste the code. So use your arrow keys and you could, move it up and down just like that. So this is our code, and that's it. Just hit OK. The code is set up. And next, let's go back to the script and go to the next step. So we scroll down, and now we're on number 5, editor, despawn zone trigger. Set up a trigger larger than the spawn zone trigger. When you exit this trigger, all infantry and vehicles will despawn. The activation will be player faction side, not present, repeatable, yes. Now, just like I said above, if you want to repeat spawning, your infantry and units, you can do that by setting it to repeatable. If you don't, you only want it to do once, then don't set it as repeatable. Now for this particular trigger, it has to be bigger than the spawn zone trigger. You're going to highlight this code right here. You're going to copy it, and we're going to set up a trigger for the despawn zone. Now before we go to that, just understand where it says town 1. That is the ID that we put here that covers this code here. So if you have another town, then be sure to use the ID for that. You could use this, but just change the ID. So the ID, as I said, covers this whole code. All right, let's go back into the mission and set up a despawn zone trigger. All right, let's go to triggers, F3, and we're going to set up a trigger 500 again, and we're going to place that right about here, and we're going to expand this trigger so that it's bigger than the spawn trigger. Something like that. Alright, so we're going to already be in the trigger. Now you don't have to set it up like that, but you're going to see why. Let's go to our trigger here, which is highlighted. We're going to edit it, and in the text, just like we did with the spawn zone trigger, we're going to type in despawn zone. Then we're going to go to the activation. We're going to set this to blue 4. Activation not present. I'm going to set it to repeatable. And then in the on activation box, make sure your cursor is blinking. Press Control V, and that will paste the code for the despawn zone. And that's all you need to do for this. Just hit OK, and you're going to see now the spawn zone and despawn zone. We're going to add a hint. This is just something to give you feedback so that you know the trigger is working, everything is spawning, you're hitting these areas. So let's go to the spawn zone trigger, and we're going to add a hint. So what you do is you just click on the open box, make sure your cursor is blinking, and then go to the bottom. Make sure the cursor is blinking at the end, and then hold down left shift and then hit enter. That will put you one line down. And then what you're going to do is you're going to type in hint, and then space, and then quote. We're going to put a little message that says you have entered the enemy territory. Spawn zone trigger, exclamation point, end quote, and then end it with a semicolon. So that's just a hint, and we're going to copy this hint, press Control C, and then we'll just hit OK. Now we're going to go to the despawn zone trigger, and just put your cursor after the code, hold down left shift, press enter. That will put you one line down, and then just press Control V to paste the hint. Now let's update this hint. You have left the enemy territory, despawn zone trigger, and that's it. So like I said, this is only for feedback, and you don't have to have that in your mission, but this is basically going to tell you that the triggers are working and that you entered and left them. We'll just hit OK. Now before we save our mission, because we are using independent, we're going to go to attributes, and then down to general. Go down to where it says independent allegiance to. Now if you're using independent faction just like I am, then you're going to want to set these guys to combat just like that. Otherwise, if you leave it like this, then the supposed enemy that you have spawned not going to attack you. They will attack O4, but they won't attack you if you're blue 4. So just hit this so you have 2 swords crossing, and I just hit OK. That sets that up. Now let's save our mission. Let's test this out. Alright, so if we go to our map, you're not going to see anything on the map. Now like I said, you could set the marker so that you could see it over the town if you want. And you can lower the transparency on it so that it's just kind of faded and you can see it, so it's up to you. Alright, so we're going to run to this tree. Once we enter this trigger, we're going to get a hint. So we're going to lay down right here. And we're going to go to spectator and see if anybody spawned. Alright, so we have 3 groups spawned and a vehicle. We have a vehicle. So these guys are, their behavior is set to safe and limited. So limited is basically walking. Safe means everything is safe and until you attack them. If we go to the map, remember the center of the marker was about here, so they spawn within the marker, which is roughly this area, so you can see where they're at. Let's get up now and let's head back and despawn this town and see how that works. So head up by the rock here and you'll get the hint that'll tell you that you entered that trigger. Alright, you have left the enemy territory, despawn zone trigger. So let's go to spectator and see if everything worked. So right now we're just looking at ourselves and there's nothing in the list here, so they despawned. There's nobody walking around, no vehicle or nothing. It's an empty town just like we started. Re-enter the trigger. You're going to hit that trigger again, you're going to get that message. So just lay down here, just not to get shot at or something. We'll go to spectator. And now you can see a new list just came up. And here they are again.
I've got a visual. Technical. 75 meters. Left.
Here's where we're at. So you just go to your map, you just do something like this, draw a box around them, and you'll have everything highlighted. And just copy that and go to the next town. And let's say the next town was over here. You could do something like that. Of course, in each one of the triggers, if we go to spawn zone trigger, you'll have to change this to town 2 and change this to town 2, and you could do something like that. And if you wanted to have the same units, you could do that as well. I hope you guys like the script and find it useful, and I want to thank you guys for watching. For more codes and scripts, take a look at this playlist.